Hello students, today we are going to discuss about tropism. After this lecture, you'd be able to know about tropism, phototropism, geotropism, and different experiments related with tropism. So, tropism is actually a response by part of plants toward or away from a stimulus, coming from one direction. It's a response of a plant toward a stimulus. It's a reaction of part of plant toward a stimulus. You know, stimulus is actually a change in environment or some change that's sensed by the plant, and that plant show reaction toward that. So that is actually tropism. Now the reaction of plant is in the form of growth movement. If it is in the form of growth movement, okay. Now, for example, we have this plant. If you look toward this plant, so this plant shoot or the stem of this plant is growing toward this light. So in this example, the stimuli for this plant is light. Stimuli is light. That's why this plant is growing toward the light. Right? So this is just example of tropism. Now let us discuss tropism in detail. Tropic responses can be positive, right? It can be positive or it can be negative. If the growth is toward the stimuli, if the plant is growing toward that stimulus, in that case, the tropic response will be positive. The tropic response will be positive. Like the plant is growing toward the light. In this case, the plant is growing toward the light. The shoot of plant is growing toward the light. Shoot is the outer part of plant. So that is growing toward the light. So in this case, the shoot of plant is showing positive tropic response, right? Now, if the growth is away from the stimulus, that is negative tropic response. In this case, if you can see here, this is gravity, right? This is gravity. Now the shoot of plant is growing away from gravity, right? So in this case, this shoot is showing negative tropic response toward the gravity. With respect to gravity, this shoot is showing negative tropic response. While with respect to light, that shoot is showing positive tropic response. It's going toward the light, right? Now, we have tropic response. We have two main types, phototropism and geotropism. So we are going to discuss that in detail. So the first one we have phototropism, in which the part of plant showing response to light is the name indicate. Photo means light. So the plant is showing response toward the light. The part of plant is showing response toward the light. Is a growth response to light. Now, geotropism. You can see here, first phototropism. You can see here this part of plant, right? It's showing response to the light. So it is growing toward the light. This is shoot of plant, right? Plymouth, the later on it did convert into shoot of plant. Okay, so this is shoot of plant, so it's growing toward the light, while this part is going, this is root, so this is going away from the light. Both is showing response to the light, but one is showing positive. This shoot is showing positive, so it is going toward the light, positive phototropism, while the root is going away from the light, so it is negative phototropism. Okay, now geotropism is a growth response to gravity, in which the part of plant showing response to gravity. You can see here, anywhere the gravity is, the root of plant will move toward that. It will move toward that, you can see. So the root is growing toward the gravity, so that is positive geotropism. Okay, while the shoot is always going away from the gravity. The shoot is going away from the gravity. It's showing negative response. So for the shoot, it is negative geotropism. Shoot is negatively geotropic because the shoot is going away from the gravity, while shoot is positively phototropic. Why? Because it is going towards the light. Now, what's the importance or the advantage of shoot growing toward the light or away from the gravity? Toward the light, it's good for shoot so that it grow out to trap more sunlight for the process of photosynthesis. While the shoot is growing away from gravity, why it is growing away from gravity? So that shoot of germinating seed grow out of the soil, so that there are more chances for pollination and seed dispersal. We know that if the shoot is exposing more outside, so their pollen grain will disperse more, it will carry by insect or wind more. That is pollination, in which pollen grain is transferring from anther to stigma of flower. So it's more chances of pollination for that plant. Second, it's also better for seed dispersal. Seed dispersal means spreading of seed. If seed dispersal of plant is more, so it means the seed will be at a distance from each other, and there will be less competition for resources like nutrients from the soil, water, light. So for that, there will be less competition because the plant will be far away from each other. So growing of shoot away from gravity is beneficial for pollination and seed dispersal, right? Now, root is positively geotropic. Positively geotropic means root is growing toward the gravity, while it is negative phototropic. Negative phototropic means the root is going away from the gravity. Far from the light. The root is growing away from the light, so it is negative phototropic. Now, what is the advantage of root growing toward gravity? First is to anchor the plant in the soil. Okay. Second, to search for water. If the root is growing toward the gravity, it is growing in the soil, so it will search, it can reach to water. Second, to ensure that the root of germinating seed always grow downward, whatever the position of the seed in the soil. If whatever the position, if you put the seed in any direction, whatever the position of that seed, but still the root will move toward the soil, it will grow toward, it will move toward the gravity. Okay? Now, you can see here, this stimulus is given to us light and gravity. So for the shoot, what should be the, like, for shoot will show what? It will move toward the light. So it is positive phototropism, while for the shoot, it is negative geotropism. For root, it is negative uh, phototropism. Why? Because the root is growing away from the light, while root is growing toward the gravity. So for that, it is positive. So it means for root, it is positive geotropism, right? While for shoot, it is positive phototropism because the shoot is growing toward the light. Is it clear? All right. All right. So the shoot with the covered tip, it's experiment. For example, we have this shoot in the covered tip covered with thin foil, and the light is coming from one direction. So what should be the response of this shoot? The first thing is that tip of the shoot is covered with thin foil. It means that this shoot will not sense the light. The tip will not sense the light, and because of that, that shoot will grow straight. It will not bend toward the light. Now, why it is happening like this, we will discuss it right now. All right. Now it's second experiment. The shoot with the cover tip grows because it can. So what? Here we did already. This one we did, right? So this one is another. Now in this case, you can see here the tip of shoot is not covered with tin foil. It's not covered. So it means that this tip can sense the light. If it can sense the light, so this shoot will move bend toward the light. Okay? So the shoot with exposed tip grows toward light because it can sense the light right now. Okay? Look at the diagram below. What does this experiment tell you about the tip of the shoot and the part it plays in growth? Tip of shoot cut off and placed on agar block. When we cut off the tip of this shoot and we place above the agar block. After that, when we observe, growth of that shoot stopped. So it means there is something that is producing by this tip and that having important role in the growth of plant. Later on, what we did, that thing, that chemical, if it is in the tip of this plant, so it's supposed to be enter to this, diffuse to this agar block. And when we take this agar block and place over that shoot, so the growth start again. So from here, we concluded that there is something that is producing by the tip of plant and that having important role in the growth of plant, right? Tip produce chemicals for growth. Now in second experiment, again we cut off the tip of shoot. Shoot stop growing. Then what we did, put tip on divided agar block. Here we selected what? Divided agar block. And that agar block divided means there is like it's two part, it's divided. So what happened, why we did it like this? Because we take that tip and put above that divided agar block again and expose that to light. Now we are going to check that what is the effect of that over the chemical. So when we expose that to light and then we take that agar block and put over the shoot. So what happened? You know, the chemical that was in the tip that diffused down, but because of this light, that chemical moved toward the shaded area, toward this area. So it means, and for example, it is first part of that agar and this is second. So in second is toward the light. So there was no, the chemical was not found in that. While in this, it is in the shaded side. So the chemicals were there. And how we know about that? When we put it this block over the shoot, so the shoot bend on this direction, It means something is going from this part one of agar block. And because of that, bending of that should happen, right? Now, bending results due to the unequal amount of chemical light affects distribution of that chemical. So because of that, that chemical move toward this part of agar on shaded side. And shaded side, it was there. All right. So that chemical is actually what? That is auxins. Auxin is actually a plant hormone or growth regulating chemical produced in root and shoot tips that affect growth. Now, what is the effect of auxin on plant cell? Actually, auxin increase the permeability of cell toward water and more cell will absorb more water. And that will lead to elongation of cell. You can see here the size of the cell is small while this cell elongate. Why it elongate? Because of absorption of more water. So this is the effect of auxin over the cell. And because of that, that part of plant will grow more as compared to another one that having no auxin, right? Now you can see here, this is root having three regions: cell division region, cell elongation, and cell differentiation. Cell division region, it's here high, you know, it's a tip of root, and here the auxin will produce, and these cells are fast growing cell. Here the mitosis of cell is fast, it's very fast. And cell elongation, the auxin will move toward this part, and here the auxin will elongate the cell. While this is actually a cell differentiation region where the cell becomes specialized. Root tip that make auxin, Auxin makes cell absorb water. Because of that, cell will elongate. Cell differentiation region, cell change their shapes in this region. No effect by auxin. Now explain why it's happening. Like you can see here, these points. After 24 hours, the points become far away from each other. So what is the reason for this? The reason for this is actually it's an area of elongation, and where the cell auxin elongate the cell, because of that the point become like they become far away from each other. Marking have moved away from each other only in the lower region. This is actually cell elongation region, right? Now, a shoot growing in even illumination grows straight up. You know, like if the light is coming from all direction or the light is coming from above, so it means that light is falling from all direction with the plant. So it means that auxin is distributing evenly and the shoot are in the stem of plant. Because of that even distribution of auxin, the plant will grow straight, right? Cell on both sides of the stem elongate equally. You can see here, because auxin is distributing equally, because of that, the cell and both sides elongate equally, and this side and this side. So because of that, the plant is growing straight. Now, a shoot growing and one-sided illumination. And like, for example, the light is coming from one side. So what will happen? Auxin is producing in the tip of shoot. That auxin will accumulate. It will accumulate on opposite side. It will collect it more on the shaded side. So thus the cell in the shaded side will elongate more as compared to the side that is toward the light. So it means the elongation of cell auxin having effect on the opposite side of the cell, on the shaded area, the cell that is on the shaded area, because auxin are there. It will not be, because of the effect of light, it will not be accumulated in this region. And this region, because of that, cell grow less on lighted side, because less auxins are present here, while more auxin on shaded area. Because of that, this cell will elongate more. In this plant, this unequal growth of plant will make the plant to bend toward the light. Hope it's clear, right? A shoot growing and one-sided illumination grows toward light. How is it possible? Because of elongation of this cell. You can see this cell elongate more as compared to this cell. Why? Because auxin accumulate here on the shaded side. Cell on the two sides of the stem grow unequally. Because of that, it moves toward the light. Auxins are produced at the shoot tip and diffuse down the stem. More auxin collects on the shaded side of the stem. Auxin cause the cell to absorb water and so elongate in cell elongation region. Thus, the shaded side grow more than the lighted one. This results in bending of stem toward light. Now, another thing about auxin is auxin sometimes stop growth. Let's see the example. You know, actually auxin produce it the apical bud right? The tip, it is producing auxin, and that auxin is distributing down. When it is distributing down, so auxin also stop the growth of lateral bud, the side bud from which branch is coming out. So if auxin is producing and the tip and that are going down, so it means it is elongated the stem, but it is it is going to stop lateral bud, and when it stop the lateral bud, so it means the plant will be long, but there will be less branch, side branches will be less. Okay, so the plant grow tall and straight because of auxin, as auxin stop the lateral bud. Now if the top is cut off from the plant, so what will happen? Flow of auxin will stop and side branches will grow out because auxin stop the side branches growth, right? So in this case, you can see here, why the branches increase here, because the farmer cut this tip, and because of that, the plant become more branch developed in plant. Sometime gardener cut the tops of plant to make them more bushy. Terminal bud. So no terminal bud. Here in this case, here terminal bud because of that auxin is producing and that is making the stem tall. But here in this case, it's making the shoot tall, but in this case, no terminal bud. So because of that, it is more branched. All right. Give a biological explanation for each of the following statements. Cutting off the tip of a shoot will stop the growth, stop the shoot from getting taller, but it will increase bushiness. Cutting off the tip of a shoot removes source of auxin, and lack of auxin stimulate lateral buds to develop. Auxin is actually, if auxin is there, that stop the lateral buds development. But if there is no auxin, so that is stimulating the lateral bud to develop, and the side branches will grow. Okay. Now we have some experiments to show tropism and shoot, geotropism and peat radical, and phototropism and a shoot. So for all these, we are all make use of an apparatus called Clinostat, a motor that rotates slowly 4 times per hour. It's a motor, you can see, and we fix our plant here. So it's rotating 4 times per hour. So what is that? Actually, it is, if it is rotating, so for example, for the root, if it is rotating, so all part of the root or shoot is exposing to gravity equally, right? So we use it as a control. Let's see, you will see it now. A Mac factors uniform contain a cork desk which can be set to rotate in vertical or horizontal plane by motor. You can fix it vertical or horizontal. It depends on your experiment. Now Mac factors uniform, how, like you can see here, this apparatus to show geotropism and plant shoot. You can see here stem and shoot continue to grow horizontally. Why? Because this device is rotating, and when it is rotating, the shoot and root, both, all the part of that is exposing to gravity equally. So because of that, both are growing horizontally. It is not bending toward the gravity. But in this case, the shoot is showing negative geotropism, because only these parties toward the gravity. So because of that, bending happened. But here it's rotating. So because of that, all the part is exposing equally, right? So remember, in this experiment, for both, we should provide the same light to make that, to make that parameter constant. So for that, we have to expose both to same light to do this experiment. give a precaution for this experiment, even illumination to both, okay, even light to both, okay. Here, because the experiment here is about geotropism and plant shoot. All right. Now, what did the shoot attach to clinoside grow horizontally? Why did the shoot attach to the clinoside grow horizontally? Why this one grow horizontally? Why this shoot grow horizontally? So I told you already that is the shoot rotated, gravity acted on all the sides. So no unilateral stimulus. No unilateral stimulus means there is no gravity from only one direction, but it is rotating, so all part on all the sides of the shoot, gravity is acting. So for that reason, that shoot is growing straight, horizontally, right? All right, to show geotropism and periodical apparatus, the apparatus was left for 3 days, right? Now, this one is, like in the clinostat, and why this one is like a root having grown down vertically. In this case, there is no rotation. So for that reason, the root grow down vertically. The root move toward the gravity, but in this case, the root move straight. Why? Because the equal gravity acting upon all the sides because of the rotation of the device. All right. It's just a question. My 2005 students wanted to test whether the position in which the seeds are placed in the soil affects the direction of shoot and root growth. So design a sample experiment which the student can use to carry out this investigation. How? Seed of the same type are placed in different orientation, in different direction in a single container. The student places the seed like this. A similar container is set up as a replicate to take it, replicate, right? So in order to, to make your experiment more authentic, so for that reason, we take a replica, right? To make it more reliable. So left in darkness for a few days, and we left that in darkness for a few days. After that, radical are observed. So what happened with the radical of these seeds? So all the, what was the need for the seed? It was provided like uh, water, yeah. So all that were provided. So what will happen in all these seeds? Remember, in all these seeds, after the growth, the root will still move. For example, it is like this: the root will go toward the gravity like this. It's this. So in all, the root will the root will move toward its car radical. That will move toward the gravity. If whatever the position of the seed is, but that will move toward the gravity. Okay. Now, another question we have. Uh, when growing plants from cuttings, farmers usually dip the cutting into rooting hormone powder before planting it in the soil. Briefly explain how this increases the chances of successful plant growth, right? You know, usually farmer is actually exposing the plants to rooting hormone powder. It's actually auxin, right? So we know this stimulate the growth. So what will happen? It will stimulate the growth. Root are stimulated to form. So in this case, it will stimulate the root. In this plant can, if it is stimulating the root, so the plant can absorb more water and ions from growth, for growth. due to more root hair present. Because of more roots hair are present, right, the root size is large and lengthy, so because of that the plant will absorb more water and times. Is it clear? So I think this is enough for this lecture for the for the tropism. I think, hope you all understand well, and thank you so much for your time. Have a nice day.